Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of B.A.Showoff, the dance lifestyle podcast. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Becky, and this is my daughter, Alexandra.
Join us here on our podcast as we share expert insights, real experiences, and behind-the-scenes stories on all things to help you grow and thrive in this exciting dance community.
So let's get right to it. Maybe we should start off by talking a little bit about who we are.
And there's no better way to get started than to talk about my mom, an icon in the dance community and has been coaching for over 27 years at Coral Reef Senior High School. She's won over 50 national championships and most recently has won High School Dance Coach of the Year. So Mom, why don't you talk to us about yourself?
So I was born and raised here in Miami. I've been married for over 30 years with my amazing husband, Albert, and I have 3 incredible kids. I've been dancing since I was 3 years old, trained in ballet, jazz, and flamenco. And I've been teaching at Coral Reef, like you said, for over 30 years, where I started the dance program, the dance team, and I am now the activities director.
So can you tell us about how you got started in dance team?
So when I was in high school, I did cheerleading for 4 years, graduated from high school and started coaching cheerleading there for about 3 or 4 years after, taking them to their first nationals in Dallas, Texas. Was such a great experience, and I just fell in love with the whole cheerleading and competition world. I started teaching at Southwood Middle School for a year, and then Coral Reef was opening up this new mega magnet high school. I was called and asked to open up the dance program. I had to coach cheerleading, I had to start a dance team and do the color guard, all while starting the dance program. So it was a big challenge for me to kind of get everything started. And I was actually very young. I had only 2 kids at the time. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Took the big leap, left this very comfy job that I had with my best friend at Southwood and opened up the program. And I was given this incredible opportunity, but I really needed to figure out how I was going to make something different and something that kids were going to want to be a part of. And so dance team was really the way that I figured, well, this is how I'm going to make kids want to come here and train with me. I started the program, I was by myself. I was a nobody. They really didn't have a name out there, didn't know who I was. But I knew that I wanted to do something different and I wanted to bring in school spirit and really help build this incredible program and incredible community here at Coral Reef. So started the dance program, focusing on training dancers to perform, to get on stage, really feel comfortable dancing and performing, and doing the dance team and taking them to competition. So I took them their first year to UDA Nationals. This is 1999, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew enough that I wanted to bring something different. And I brought in a routine and didn't do well and didn't even make it to finals. But we had a great time, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to come back the following year, and I'm going to do something better. And I came back, made it to finals the next year, but didn't get very far. And finally, in the year 2000, 2001, I got my first 3rd place. And it was the most exciting thing to be called up and you wait and you sit there in like 10th place, 9th place, 7th place, and you're so excited because it's not you. And, it was just exciting to be the top 3. It was the first time that we had taken a boy to nationals, and we took this dance called She Bangs. It was an iconic dance. It was very different from anything that anybody had done. And I just wanted to be remembered. I wanted to go in there at UDA and be like, oh, that team that did that, or, not so much win as much as give a memorable performance. And we did that with that dance. And from that point on, every year when I would come back, that was my goal, to come back and do something different and bring something new to the UDA stage. And even now, 27 years later, every year, when I come back, I think, okay, what can I do different? What can I do better? What can my dancers do to be memorable? And that's what we do in order to, to make it there at UDA.
So we've talked about how you've been coaching for over 27 years. What keeps you motivated after so long with your team?
Every year is different. Every year the dancers are different. So you want to kind of rebuild what you're doing, but really it's the kids. It's the love and the passion that they have for dance team and for the program. They work so hard, and their hard work, it motivates me to keep going. And, I'm the type of person that I always want to be better. I don't like to lose, but if I'm going to do something, I like to do the best I can and give 110% to it in everything that I do. So when I see these kids coming in and they're hardworking and they want more and they have so much passion and so much drive, it just inspires me to keep going and doing more. And really, they keep me young. So, I've been doing this, like you said, for 20 some years. So I'm getting older, but being a part of high school kids and with that energy and all that they, all this that they want to give and they don't want to do, it just keeps me young and wanting to do more and more.
So obviously over the years, I've been able to sit back and watch you coach these teams. And I've seen so many things change and so many things evolve. How have you seen the dance team world evolve?
So first and foremost, kids are different. When I started this, there was no social media. Kids were very about school. They were, they didn't really know what was going on so much around the world or even like in other places besides Miami. So they weren't as informed as they are now. So really, I think that they were just very comfortable in what they were doing because they didn't see everything else that was happening. Nowadays, kids know what everybody's doing. They know what other teams are doing. They know what is out there. So I think it's a different kind of push that I have to do as a coach. And I think it's a different kind of dance community that's going on. So when I first started dance team, competition was very different. So there was only varsity. There was no large, small, medium, none of that existed. It was, varsity and junior varsity, middle school, and that was pretty much it. And as dance teams started evolving and growing and more schools started having dance teams and bringing them to competition and finding out, oh, this competition's going on and let's do that, it started going into small and large. And, it was divided. And that was nice because, the teams, when you have a team that has 8 dancers versus a team that has 28 dancers, it's really hard to compete against each other. So it was nice when they did that. And that was a change that people had to adjust to. Years go by and now it's grown, it's gotten bigger. So now we're doing small, medium, large. And that was another adjustment that we had to all deal with. And, what is that going to mean? Who am I competing against? And now we've gotten into this D1, D2 with UDA that I think that it's going to take a while to get used to it. And I think that teams and coaches are not really sure how they feel about that. But I think with everything, sometimes change is good. Sometimes change is for the better. Sometimes change leads to something else. And I have a feeling that, with all these changes that have gone on in the past years and how much dance teams have grown and how many schools have dance team, that this just gives opportunities to schools to be able to do well, excel, stand out at competition. And I think it's really hard when there's a school like mine that there's 3,700 students that I get to pick from for my dance team versus a school like yours that there's only 850 kids to choose from. It's really hard for you to compete against a school that I have so many more kids to compete to bring into my dance team. So I think that the D1, D2 is eventually going to maybe make people more comfortable going into competition and giving more schools opportunities and more teams opportunities to do well while they're there. So it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, that for all of us to get used to it. I'm not sure about the 2 weekends because if people are following along, they know that there's going to be 2 different weekends next year, and I don't know if everybody really understands what that means, but it's not going to be the same. It's going to be very different, and I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. I know that I'm going to miss seeing all the teams that I'm used to seeing, and I'm going to miss being a part of that and having all the dancers there. But that feel that we're going to have, that college feel, that's what I think that they're trying to go for. So, I have an open mind. I've gone through all these changes through these 30 some years, and every time there's a change, it's like frustrating. It's like, why this change? But, you just go with it, and then, we have to have an open mind and say, okay, well, let's see what happens from here.
Well, and I do think that there are some positive and negatives. I think that the negatives is, you're right, those 2 weekends, we're not going to even be able to really see each other. We're not going to be able to support each other.
Well, you'll be able to see me.
That is true.
Because you could come the following weekend.
And if you wanted to miss your rehearsals, you could come see me.
Yeah, it would be more of a struggle. But yes, we could do it. But other schools that are in Miami is a lot harder, yeah.
It'll be a lot harder. But I do think that one of the positives is now we are combined with our cheer teams. So it does bring a little bit more of our own school spirit And it does allow us to, I can cheer on my cheer team, the cheer team can cheer me on. We have a bigger crowd just from our school. So there are some positives and negatives that I agree. I think we need to kind of figure out our way through it. But I'm kind of open to seeing what these changes bring to us.
Yeah, and I think that there's so many dance teams, and there is so much talent, everywhere. It's not just UDA that you have to choose to go to. There's so many other really great competitions. There's NDA, there's Dance Team Union, there's Contest of Champions, there's American All-Star. There's so many different competitions that you could choose to go to if the UDA platform doesn't work for you. I work with Dance Team Union, and I go to the regionals, and I think that they have such a great competition. They've got so many talented teams, yet they've still been able to stay more like a family. It's still small enough that you still have great customer service. Everybody kind of knows each other. You know who the owners are. You know if you need something, who to go to. But it's big enough in that, they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday competition. And they've got, in a category, they've got 20 teams. And there's a lot of talent. So you still have that kind of, challenge when you go to a competition like that. But it's not the size of UDA that you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of teams, because that might not work for you. You might not be that team that really loves to do that. You might be the type of coach that you want something more family, more, more that customer service, that, you need something and somebody's there to answer your question right then and there. They know you by name. Everybody has an opportunity to figure out which one they like better. So I think that that's one of the great things that's been happening with dance teams, is that you don't have to choose just that one place. You don't have to go to UDA. You have so many options that you can go to if you don't like what they're doing.
So I know every year is a little bit different, but what do you do to really prepare for competition and get your kids ready?
So yeah, every year is different. The style is always a little bit different, and the process kind of changes with your team. I will say what works for me doesn't work for everybody, and I think that every team is different. So you've got to really make choices according to the dancers that you have and the team that you have, and what you're doing, and where what your place is and where you're going. But for what works with me is my team at this point is a well-oiled machine. It really runs itself. My kids understand from day one what the expectations are. They want to work hard. They don't go onto the team to just be on the team. And I think that was a problem that I had many, many years ago, that I had dancers that just wanted to say, oh, I'm a cadet, or I'm on the dance team. And they didn't really want to do all the work that it meant to be on a national championship team. They just kind of rode the coattails of the ones that had been there before and had worked hard and gotten to that place. So it took a while to kind of weed those dancers out. And I think that every dance team will have to go through that at some point, that they'll, you start up, you start doing well, and at some point you're going to have to learn how to weed out the dancers who are not there for the bigger purpose. And yes, you want to win. And yes, everybody wants that championship and wants to say their first place and, wants to be the national champion. Everybody wants that. There isn't a single team that is like, oh yeah, I don't care for that. Everybody, if you go to competition, you want that, because as a competitor, you want to win. But there's a difference between wanting to have it and working hard and wanting to work what needs to be given in order to be that winner. You want to say, I did that, not it was just given to me. And so my dancers at this point are there. They know, they walk into the team, they're going to work every single day. That even on their off days, even days that they don't feel well, they're still working hard. So this year for nationals, for instance, the week before, a bunch of my kids got the flu and they were dropping like flies. And we couldn't go to one of our regional competitions because I had too many of them out. But my kids chose that they wanted to rehearse anyways. So on that Saturday, instead of being at the regional competition, the kids who didn't feel bad, the kids who weren't sick, they went and they rehearsed. And the ones that were really sick, there was maybe 2 of them that stayed home. The ones that were kind of sick and not feeling well, they still went to rehearsal, because they understood this is what we need to do. We are a week and a half away from going to competition. This is not time to sit back. And I think that that's something that you can't force that on any kid. You can't force that on a dancer. I think that they have that naturally, that they know this is what's expected of me, this is what I have to do. Yeah, there's days that I don't feel good, and yeah, there's days that, you go to work and you're really not, 100%, but I got to do what I got to do in order to finish what it is that I started. And my dancers are there, and they understand that. And so again, it doesn't work for everybody, but I'm very like black and white with my team. This is what you're expected to do. This is what we got to do. This is what, we're going to win. This is where we're going. And, Saturdays, Sundays, there's times that we will rehearse from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9, 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes their lunch breaks were like, okay, 5 minutes, everybody grabs something to eat quickly and we keep going. Or while I'm working with this group, the other group is eating, and everybody Uber Eats, and have the food here at 4, and the alternates are running back and forth to the Uber Eats to get the food. Like, you have to figure out what works and what's going to happen with your team, and they have to be on board. And then most especially is having the parents on board. You need the support of the parents. As a coach, if your parents don't support you, then maybe it's not the team for them. Maybe they got to find something else to do. But the parents have to trust their coach. They have to sit down at the beginning of the year and understand what's expected of the kids and what's expected of the parents. And they've got to trust this coach knows what they're doing. They want what's best for my kid. They're not going to make my kid do something that they can't do. They're going to push my kid to be better. And the parent has to say, like, yeah, and understand that, this is what's best for my kid and for the team. Because this is not a soloist. This is not just one kid dancing. It's for the team. So the parents, sometimes it's kind of hard for them, but they need to step back and say, you know what, my kid's in the back, but that's what's the best for the team. Or, my kid's an alternate right now. That's what's best for the team. Everybody needs to benefit, not just that one kid. So again, I think that everybody has to do their stuff differently, but always making sure that your dancers, your parents, your administration, that they all understand what your expectations are and that everybody's on board. And, you're going to get questioned throughout, your lifespan of being a dance team coach. But when you're questioned, you just got to, set your standards and set your ground and say, this is what I'm doing. This is what I need from you. Everybody's got to be on board.
Well, and I think there is something to be said for kids who care as much as the coach does. Because I think for a long time, especially when you're building up a program, a lot of it is push from the coach. And it's the coach saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, this is what I want. And a lot of times kids and parents, they look to the results, not necessarily the process.
Exactly.
And not every kid or parent is willing to sit back through the process. They just want the results. And I think that what's more important sometimes than the results is that process that gets them there, and that it makes it more rewarding. It makes winning that much sweeter. And it makes it, for them to sit back at the end and say, look how hard we worked and how much we really did deserve this. And yeah, I think parents too, if parents really don't trust the coach and what the coach has to say or what the coach is requiring from their team, it really is very hard, because at the end of the day, they are also part of the team. When you choose your kids, the kids that you want on your team, you're also choosing the parents. And everybody needs to work together. And that's really the most important part of it.
And it's important that the kids understand that you're not an automatic winner. Just because you won the year before does not mean you're automatically going to win the following year. You have to prove yourself year to year. And I know that I have people that be like, oh, but you're so lucky, you always win. First of all, I don't always win. My team doesn't always win. There have been years that we didn't win. There were many years that we were second place every year. And, it was a struggle. And the following year, you come back, you're like, okay, this year we're going to win. And you don't, and you come back. And that's okay. You've got to understand that every team needs to rebuild. Every team, when you start, everybody's on the same page. Okay, so we're all brand new. Nobody here is a winner because this is a new team. So this is not a winning team. You've got to work for it and you've got to earn it. And once your kids understand that, they understand that it doesn't matter what happened the year before, here we are again, they want it. They want it even more. And when they do win, the following year they come back, now they want it even more. So I start off the year like competition is not the most important thing. I mean, we go to camp, and camp is not a big deal for me. Camp is my time to bond with my kids, for them to bond together, for them to have fun, because The year's just starting. If they don't get along, if they're not friends, the year's not going to progress well. So this is not competition time. This is a time to grow as a team, learn how to work together. This is where I pick my officers. This is where we set goals. This is where I kind of see, okay, this is what this team is about and what I need to do with them from this point on. And then as the year goes on, you are constantly teaching them lessons to become winners. Not that you're telling them you need to win a championship, you need to be first place. It is those little lessons that they have to learn in order to grow up to be a winner. And I think that that's something that coaches need to learn how to do. And again, every team is different, but you need to know your team and know what they need in order to make it to this place.
Giving them a winning attitude.
Always.
Because that's the way to really push them to want more and to do
Always. Always. And I think that's something you need to really do with your teams is you need to be very positive. There are coaches, and I think that maybe I was at some point too, probably more negative than I am now. That wasn't good enough, or you have to do better, or oh my God. And I think that kids don't do well when they're getting those negatives. I think that they do better when they're getting more positive feedback. Guys, that wasn't good enough, but we could do better. Let's do it again because I know the next time you do it, it's going to be better. And then they feel like you trust them. And then they feel like, oh my God, she has faith in me. She knows I can, so I'm going to be able to do it. I used to do that with my kids with turns. Like when they couldn't hit their turns, and people, my captain and team would be like, she doesn't hit it. She's never going to hit the turns. And I'd be like, no, she's going to hit the turns. And I would tell the kid, you're going to hit it. Just don't worry about it. You're going to hit the turns. I had many years that I had that happen with my teams, in that there was always that one girl or two girls that they would just follow their turns, and it was like a mental block. It's like they felt like I can't do it, and I'm being told I can't do it, so I'm not going to be able to do it. And when I would talk to them positively, I'd be like, I trust you. I think you could do it. I have no problem with you. I have total faith that you can do it. It just kind of changed their entire tone, their whole mindset. They're like, okay, well, she's trusting me, so that means I can. And they would hit it. It would happen. We were nationals. I'd be like, wow, thank God that they finally did that. But I think when they feel like if you trust them and they have that positive feedback at them, they're going to always grow and do a lot better.
I think my favorite line is always, I've seen you do it better. I know you can do it better.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. Even if I haven't seen it better, I'll tell you that I have.
Yeah, it
and
does.
They really
it
do. They build themselves up.
It's kind of like it's just a mental thing and a mental block. And when they feel like you have faith in them, okay, well then they have faith in themselves. It's when they feel that they don't have, you don't trust them or you don't believe in them, that's when they'll fail. And again, these are things that I think I've had to learn throughout the years. I think that I wasn't always that way. I think that I had my years that I was very, oh my God, no way, you can't do this. Or, okay, that person can't, this person can't. And I just, because I wanted so bad to do better and I wanted so bad for my team to be successful, I just didn't know what I needed to do in order to get it there. And it took years of figuring that out to be to the point I am now. I also put a lot of trust in my officers, and I think that's something that maybe every coach doesn't do. But when you put that kind of trust in kids, they want to please, they want to do better, and they feel like if okay, I'm letting you do this, and it's like, wow, look at the power that you've given me. I have to do really well. So I've learned to give up a lot of my power and give it to the kids. And the first thing I do in the beginning of the year is I sit with my officers and I do like kind of like a leadership training with them. And I give them all this feedback and all these different ways of being good leaders. Because I think if a kid's trying to go for an officer position, they have leadership qualities. You're not going to go for it if you don't have some type of leadership quality. And you're not going to put somebody to be an officer if they don't have that. But you've got to guide them. They're young. So one of the things I always tell my my officers is, everything is us. Everything is we. Everything is you and me. It's never you did this, I did this. Because the minute you do that, then you've cut boundaries. So like you guys are over here and I'm over here. So I do that with my team as well. I always tell them, okay, guys, we have to do this. Guys, we have to do that. Telling them you this or you fell out or you, that's not going to help them. So again, those are things that you learn throughout the years while you're coaching. But as a coach, giving kids that opportunity to lead and then teaching them how to lead, it's going to make your team more successful in the long run.
I know for me, it's varied year by year, but when choosing an officer for you, or a captain, co-captain, whatever it is, what are some of the things that you look for in your leaders?
Well, first of all, I need to know that the rest of my team will respond. And that doesn't always mean that they're the most popular or the most well-liked, because some of my best captains have not been the captains that everybody's friendly with or most well-liked. But they are the ones that the kids respect. And that when they say, we're going to do this, the kids, whether or not they like them or they're their best friends, they respect and they're going to do it. So that's the first thing, is that I know that my team has to be able to respond to whoever my officers are. There's times it's a lot easier. Sometimes you have so many kids to pick from that it's hard to pick a captain. So like this past year, my captain, my co-captain, they were equal. I mean, it was very hard for me to pick who was going to be my captain. They were both excellent leaders. The kids, everybody in the team responded well to both of them. They were both with it kind of kids. They were both the type of kids that, I could close my eyes and I knew that they could take the team and run with it. And that was great. I mean, what a luxury I had that I had two amazing officers. It came down to, at this point, I talked to everybody who was on the team and asked them their feedback. And I think that they appreciated that I wanted to know how they felt, but I wanted to know from each of them, how do you feel? Which one do you think is going to be the better captain? Who do you think you're going to respond to better? And what they had to say and the reasoning that they had, it helped me pick. And I went with what most of the team went with. So again, every year it's a little bit different, but really you want that captain and that co-captain, because the co-captain is just as important as the captain most of the time. You want those two to be kids that the team will respond to. That if you're not there at that moment and they do something, that the kids are not going to rebel and be like, okay, well, you're not the coach, so I'm not going to do what you're saying. That they're all going to be like, yeah, yes, yes, captain, whatever you say, I'm doing it.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily always the strongest dancer on the team either.
No, but I will say that it doesn't need to be the strongest dancer, but it does need to be the dancer that they know their counts well, they know their choreography, because they step out a lot more. So they're not running the dance over and over and over and over as much as the rest of the team. So it does need to be somebody who is strong enough, that knows their counts all the time, and it needs to be a very smart dancer that they know other people's choreography, because they're helping clean all other people's choreography. So they need to know their own, but they also need to know everybody else's. So yes and no. Doesn't have to be your superstar dancer, but yes, it has to be a strong dancer that could handle.
So a lot of our dancers, and I know a lot of other teams' dancers, they balance studio and dance team. What are your thoughts on kids continuing to train in studio and team? Or if they ask if they should leave their studio, what is your advice to those dancers?
Well, I think the more training, the better. In my mind is you cannot get enough training. I would never tell a kid to leave their studio or to not go train or just train with me. And I think that should work both ways. I think that studio people should also see, like, kids being in dance team is just benefiting them in the long run, and that the dancers are training more. So to me, the more dancing they could do, the better. It's been a struggle throughout the years to find that balance. And I do see some kids that do leave their studio because they can't do the balance, or because their studios don't give them the flexibility that they need. But the studios who learn to work with the dance team kids and communicate with me and communicate with the dancers about our schedules, those are the most successful kids. Those are the kids that, if their studio owner needs them and tells me, hey, listen, we have this rehearsal, I know that you have a rehearsal, what can we do? And we try to work it out. Those kids are happy. Those kids feel like if they're being successful in both places, they don't feel like they're letting anybody down. They feel like, they're being there for both, the team and for their studio, versus the studios that they tell the kids, you're not going to benefit from dance team. You shouldn't do it. It's going to hurt you as a dancer. You're not going to succeed. It's going to hurt you in the long run. Those kids, a big chunk of them end up leaving their studio because they don't like that being pulled back and forth. And really, they benefit from both. I mean, being in your studio, you're training, you're taking classes, you have different styles. You train as a soloist, so it makes you as a soloist a stronger dancer. But being part of a dance team, you are focused on your school spirit, the teamwork aspect of it, being there for each other, knowing how to help each other. And if you take what you learn in dance team and you take it into the studio, you'll be a better studio dancer. And you'll be a better dancer for your studio, and vice versa. If you take that soloist and that training that you've gotten in studio, and you bring it into the dance team, and you help level up the other kids that aren't part of studios, and you help with that kind of training, you benefit in the dance team. So I think that they both really could benefit so much from each other if they learn to work together. And I'm very lucky, and I have a big chunk of the studios near me that do work well with me. I have so many of my alumni that have opened up studios, and that we work together, and they'll communicate with me. And then I have the couple of studios who don't want to help or don't want to communicate, and those kids struggle. Those kids really they do find it hard to make everybody happy. So my suggestion to a coach is talk to your studios, tell your kids from day one, this is what my schedule is, this is what we're going to be doing, and try to stick to it. So I try to give a calendar in the beginning of the year telling them these are the dates, and I always give more than what might happen. I never try to add. And now that's going to happen. There's sometimes no way around it. Like if you have a choreographer and the choreographer has to come at a different time, or they come back because they've got to fix the piece, and those things happen. And if I have to put in a last minute rehearsal and a studio calls me and says, listen, we already had this set up, I'll give in to the studio. I tell them, what, my bad, because I had to add it. You could have them. But that's very rare that I have to do that, because I try to set up my schedule early on and not have those things happen. I think another thing that you need to do as a coach is find time for bondings, find time for the kids to have fun. Because I think that if it's all just work, and they don't have any downtime and any fun time, it's very hard for them to connect and be friends. So, which is why I said, camp is so important for me to make that about bonding rather than about competition and about, that whole entire aspect. It is about making friends and coming together and working together and having fun and making memories. You've got to find time for that. That balance is so necessary for kids nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of kids, they do have those benefits from the studio that are things that dance team coaches can't offer them. We don't have a lot of time to do classes. We don't have a lot of time to do technique. So we rely on the studios to give them that training and to really work with them on things like their turn, their technique in ballet, all of those things. And we don't have that kind of time. And then I do think that we provide the studio something that is, we make your dancers very clean. We make them very precise. We teach them how to clean, and they take that back into their studios. And I think a lot of times when, and I've heard both ways. I've heard coaches tell their kids that they don't need to do studio anymore. Then I've heard studios tell their kids that they don't need to do dance team. And I think that when that happens, it puts the kid in a position where you're forcing them to make a choice. And I would say 8 out of 10 times, they'll probably choose dance team because our season ends in February. We have after school practices are done by 5, 6 o'clock. We'll have weekend rehearsals come December, January, but really we don't do a lot more like that. And then when, studio competitions hit, it's every weekend. So most of these kids want to continue doing
that. Yeah, and there's something to be said about school spirit.
Yes.
That school spirit is so important. And when you're in high school, especially, because I think middle school, kids don't really have that much of a social life, so they could handle both. They really, doing their studio, they love doing studio. They're really attached to their studio, and I think that's so great because they learn how to be competitors and they learn how to perform on stage when they're in middle school. So by the time they get to high school, it's like second nature to them. But when they get to high school, they have a social life and they want that social life, and they have to have the balance. And again, if the studios learn how to connect with the dance team and the dance team with the studio, and you try to work together, a kid could do it all. A kid could have straight A's. They could be the superstar at the studio. They could do all the studio competitions. They could be on dance team. They could have the school spirit and still have a social life. They could balance it because I've had the kids do it and I've seen it happen. The communication part, that's the most important thing, is that the studios communicate with the dance coaches and they find the balance. I think I'm a little different too because I'm a magnet program. So we train in school. The kids are dancing. It's part of our curriculum. So they are training. I bring in guest teachers. We have master classes all year long. I start off the year, and I know that you do too. I have a 2-week intensive where I try to bring in as many master teachers as possible so that they get that training right in the beginning of the year. And I think that, everybody doesn't have that luxury like I do, but I think that even if you could fit it into your schedule as a coach, find, if maybe it's just the first Monday of each month, bring in a master teacher, a 2-hour master class, so that they're, doing something. If you can't afford to bring a master teacher, then make it a technique day. Once, every other week, every Monday is going to be technique day, and we're just going to work on turns and across the floor, stretching, whatever it is, but find the time to make it happen, because your dancers need it. And it's not to take away from them going to studio, because they should still go to studio, but it's for them to be training together. So there's a difference between being in your studio and doing turns and taking class, and then doing it as your team together, everybody doing quads together, so that they learn how to dance together. Everybody doing a combo together, they learn how to dance together. And I think that that's part of growing as a dance team and being successful, is that you train together, even if you can't do it every day, but you find the time to be able to train together in class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the hardest things about dance team, because in studio, you are all training together, so you have the same style. When you're in dance team, you're getting kids from different studios who've all been trained differently, and somehow you're making them all dance exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's hard. What do you do to get them all together? So yeah, I think that if they're able to take some sort of master classes together, something to make them all look cohesive, it makes life for the coaches definitely much easier.
Yeah, and here in Miami, it's really hard because there are so many dance studios. So there's, in one block, you'll find 3 dance studios. So kids are training all over the place. I know that there's other, cities that, I'm not going to say they're lucky, but they don't have to worry about that. They have 1 or 2 studios in their area, so the kids go to one or the other. So most of your kids are training the same way. Here in Miami, on my team alone, I have kids in 7, 8, 9 different studios. So one's training one style, one's training another style, another one's training. So it is so important that I do have my classes, and my kids are taking master classes together, and they're taking technique class together, because if not, once I put them choreography, they're all doing all these different things, because that's how they're training. They're training completely different. So yeah, and like I said in the beginning, everybody is different. Every team is different. What works for me doesn't work for you. It doesn't work for the other team. But you've got to find those little things that work for your team. And I think that one of the main things is training together, taking class together. I think that every dance team could benefit from that.
I think if I could offer any sort of advice to coaches and to studio owners, I think would be, and you touched on it, sending out your dates early. Send them out as early as possible, because I think that you gain a kind of respect for each other. If I send you these dates, these are the dates I have, and then a studio works around my dates, and then come the studio later, and then I have dates I need to add in, but then I need to work around the studio schedule as well, we kind of gain that respect for each other.
Yeah.
It's who got the date first, and then if I get it second, then I need to work around you. I need to figure it out. So I think the moment that you gain that respect for each other of, I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to work with me, it's going to make everything so much easier.
Yeah, and I think that us as coaches, and I think that the studio owners, we have to keep the kids in mind. Like, they're more important than anything else. And I know if I know that this studio has a big show in November, I know to take it easy on the kids in November, because they're already bombarded with this show, or this going on in their studio. They don't need the extra. Like, you're gonna kill them. Their love for dance, and their bodies can only handle so much. So I think that that's something that's so important, that we take the kids and we think about them before anything else. Like I tell my kids, tell your studios in January. January is a big month for us. We're rehearsing every single day from when we come back from the break. We have competition almost every single weekend. For the studios to cut back a little bit, or cut them some slack. If they see it's a Thursday, and the students, they've been rehearsing all weekend, they're so tired, they've been competing, they're still dancing. Don't get upset at them and they don't show up to the jazz class that afternoon. They're still dancing. They're still training. Give them some slack. Say, okay, you know what? You're not going to come to this class. That's fine. But when we have this class, you're going to have to really prove to me that it was okay you didn't come there. You're going to have to work hard. Find ways of giving the kids their break, because they need it. And I see it. I see it that there's kids that start burning out. Once we come back from nationals, they're burned. Like, they are like, I need a break. And the studios don't give them the break. And that's when they start walking away from studios. So I'm willing to work with my studios and tell them, okay, tell me what days you guys have a show, and I'll try and stay away from those days. But give the kids some slack when it comes to competition season with us, because it's a lot. I know it's a lot. I know, and I'm tired, so I'm not dancing like they are. So I can imagine what they're feeling like.
Well, and I think too that we don't want to mess with these kids' futures. You know, now especially the dance team world's growing so much. There's so many kids who are now considering going into dance team in college. And a lot of these kids, even when they walk onto our teams, say they're not dance team dancers. But then they start doing dance team and they're like, I can't imagine what my life would have been like had I never done this. So I think a lot more kids are starting to consider doing dance team in college, whether they want to do something in dance team later on in their lives, or if they want to go to college for dance, whatever it is. But allow kids to have the opportunity to figure out what their segue is. You know, figure out where it is that they want to go and what they want to do, because there is so much opportunity for them. And if we don't give them that, if we don't give them the network, or if we don't give them the ability to learn, you know, all the ins and outs of all of this, they'll never be able to make an educated decision. So we need to really put the kids first and think about what's going to be best for them. You know, allow them to experience everything. Put them in a situation where they're able to work with these dance team choreographers, they're able to do this with dance team, but then they're also able to go to these conventions with their studios, learn from all of these convention people, and it'll help them grow, and it'll really give them a much broader network.
Yeah, if that's one advice that I would give to coaches, is to become more involved and aware of all the things that are out there for their dancers. Communicate with the colleges, communicate with college coaches. There's so many opportunities. You know, Tribe 99 has the college combines. There's Prodigy. There's the dance draft. So there's so many opportunities for coaches to become involved and know what's out there for their dancers, communicate with those college coaches, and get the dancers out there so that they do have the opportunity to be able to continue dancing in college. I think that falls on us. It falls on us as coaches to get our kids ready and give them the opportunity to be able to go out there and audition for these coaches.
So let's rewind a little bit and go back to the beginning. What was it like winning your first national championship white jacket?
Oh my gosh, it was with my JV team. But there's nothing like it. Even now, I mean, it doesn't matter how many white jackets you get. There's nothing like winning a white jacket. You know, sitting there, you know, as a coach, your heart is, you know, through your throat, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, I hope they don't say my name. I hope they don't say my name, because you're just waiting. And there were years like, you know, there were schools like Coral Gables, and they'd say, and, you know, 7th place, Coral. And I'm like, Gables. And it was, you know, it's a nerve-wracking experience. And even this year when we won, probably the first time that I started crying. It's just, you know, because you're just so bundled up in emotions, and it just is such an incredible feeling. But you know what that's like, because you got your first white jacket this year. So how did it feel for you?
Oh my gosh. It was my 9th year coaching this year. So it was super exciting. It really was something that was me and my whole team like put our heart and soul into everything. I mean, this was something I had been envisioning since I was a little girl, you know, watching you. And I was able to win my first white jacket as an athlete in 2009. And then now I get to see my kids do it. And it was really special. It really was something that all year long, I was like trying to manifest it, and it came true. And I mean, I know every coach will always say it, and I know it to be true, but you know, these kids really did deserve it. So I'm really glad that they were able to experience that and motivate us to do even better next year, and to do more, and to, you know, how else could we excel and do better. You know, the second we got off that bus, I was already planning for next year. So
and it'll be a team that you'll have a special bond with forever, because my first varsity white jacket dancers, I'm still very, very close with all of them. You know, one of them is Danny Solano, which is one of my, you know, my right-hand people who still comes and coaches with me and is by my side at nationals. Julian, which is one of my teachers now there at Coral Reef, and he teaches dance over there. Brandon, I bring him all the time to come, you know, master classes. He used to choreograph for me. Candace, you know, she's just had a baby. She lives in California. I keep in touch with her. So really the kids from that group of your first white jacket, those are going to be your babies forever. Like, you're never going to forget them. You're going to have a special bond with them always.
Oh, I know that they're going to be back like every day they can. They're a great team, and they scream Lord's pride. And there's so much about dance team and how grateful they are to have had this experience at all. And it's extra special to me because my little cousin was my captain. So it's extra special that I get to do it with my family. And, we were able to bring home the title. And it was really special because you won your first 5 jackets this year. So we were able to come home to my dad and say, we have 6 jackets.
6 jackets.
Coming home.
6 jackets from Miami.
Yeah. So it was very exciting. Really, really a fun weekend. I mean, I was sick to my stomach the entire day, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, I'll tell you what, it never gets old. Winning those white jackets never gets old. Can't get enough of them. So I don't know when, I'm going to stop coaching, but I know that whenever I get that last white jacket, it's going to be very memorable for me because every single one that I get, it's still super special, and I'm still super nervous. My stomach is still upside down every time that they're calling, the different places. I love it. I love the excitement, and I love, everything that goes with it.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll do what I can to keep bringing them back too.
Awesome.
So to close out our segment today, I thought it would be a good idea to maybe talk about your first 3rd place, She Bangs. I know that you have a really funny story about She Bangs.
I do.
It never gets old.
So that year, this is 2001. Like I said, it was the first time I took a boy to nationals. And that year, they changed the rule from being 2 minutes and 15 seconds to the dances had to be 2 minutes. And I didn't read all the rules clearly.
You're not reading?
No. And when we got there, back then, they used to make you sit down. All the coaches had to sit, and you had to go to a coaches meeting. And they, just went through all, the logistics of competition and where you had to go and all that stuff. And when they said, and then, at 2 minutes, and I was like, what? 2 minutes? And I'm like, and my dance wasn't 2 minutes and 15 seconds. It was like 2 minutes and 10 seconds, 12 seconds, whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And back then, there was no phones. It wasn't like, it was a CD, a burned CD. And that's what you took with you. And like, there's nothing you could do at that moment. So I tell my dancer, I go, okay, well, we're going to have to, at 2 minutes, I'm just going to hit stop. And you're just going to stop dancing right there. And they're like, huh? So the 2 minutes, right when we hit 2 minutes, a group of dancers went forward and did a switch leap to the split to the floor. This is 2001, so the dance was very different. And then the back line just did like a leg grab, like hold. And so it went, she bangs. And I don't even think it said the word bangs. And everybody just had to freeze. So some of them just grabbed their leg and had to hold it there. The other ones, she bang, and just fell to the floor. And I just pressed stop.
It's a monumental ending.
It was.
I don't think you could outdo that ever.
It was. And I may have even gone over by a second or two. I may not have hit the 2 minutes exactly, but we got 3rd place. So it was exciting, and it was an iconic dance and moment. And it was really cool. They had us on the big screen. They interviewed us on the big screen. And, every time that they would ask a question to the boy, everybody would yell. And they were so excited because it was like the first boy, imagine it's thousands and thousands of girls and one boy. So yeah, it was very fun and very memorable to this day. I have a lot of funny stories, but that's for another time.
Yeah, that one's a good one. You went out with a bang on that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us on our first episode of B.A.Showoff. We had a great time with you.
Make sure to head over to our YouTube, subscribe and like, and follow us on Instagram. Any questions or suggestions for our next episodes, click on our link tree in our bio and fill out the Google Doc.
Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, guys.
See you soon.